What's going on, everybody? Wild Time here with another World of Warcraft video. Today, not playing in this video, but we're going to talk about some of the hotfixes because some of these are pretty interesting. So this is August the 8th, which was, Monday? So towards the end of the first week of Season 4. And a lot of things happened. A lot of things were realized. And so we're just going to look at some of these changes, and they all happen with realm restarts. By the way, most of them anyway happen with realm restarts. So it didn't gonna happen until Tuesday, which is today, August 9th, for those of us on North American realms, and then tomorrow, which would be I think the 10th on Wednesday for EU realms. So let's look at some of these that are coming up. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these classes here. Because I want to focus more on what they did with the dungeons and how that's gonna, make some of these dungeons a lot easier and more doable. Survival, though, they're doing some things where they're nerfing the 4-set bonus for DPS, AoE, and then they are increasing some of the single target damage, and then that's what they're saying down here, right? The 4-piece set bonus is still causing survival hunters to overperform in multi-target situations. So they're lowering the effectiveness of the 4-piece and adding 20% increases to a lot of the single target stuff. Warlock, Destruction Warlock, Rain of Fire damage reduced by 20%. I mean, I sort of felt like if you want to be a ranged caster, you sort of had to be a Warlock right now, because you hit Rain of Fire and pretty much destroy everything and your numbers go way up. They're reducing that by 20%. And then Emulation Aura from the Infernal, also 20%. So Destruction is excelling in multi-target situations, and they're applying additional changes here to stabilize the throughput and scaling with high target counts. So they're trying to make, Warlock not be the class that you have to play to get top numbers, right? So it's a nerf. It is what it is. Dungeons and raids. Okay, here's what I really want to focus on. Mythic Plus. Fixed an issue that caused Grimrail Depot and Iron Docks keystones to not appear in the Group Finder UI when searching by keystone level. That's important. I'm glad they're going to get that fixed. Shrouded. Here's where we get into the good stuff. Zul'Gurmux now casts Blood Barrier less often. So Zul'Gurmux was one of those things. Oh, excuse me. Zul'Gurmux is one of those mobs. It's like the little mini Shrouded boss in each dungeon. And the blood barrier, it casts the blood barrier, just doing a cast, you have to break the barrier and then interrupt. So it was getting to the point where everybody would overlap interrupts, and then you'd barely have time to get it back to where it could interrupt. That was my experience. If you're in a pug or something like that. So casting that less often is going to be helpful. And then they just moved the location in Upper Karazhan. Grimrail Depot. This is huge to me, because if y'all follow me and you watch some of my live streams, Grimrail Depot is the one that I started with, mainly because I didn't know the routes. Grimrail's pretty straightforward. Thought, how hard could it be? Well, with Quaking, it sucked. And then the bosses and the mobs, they just hurt so bad. Now, granted, it was, the beginning of the season, but I've ran it 4 or 5 times. And it just felt overtuned. So here's some of the stuff they did to Grimrail Depot. Grimrail Depot. So the Farseer's Storm Shield can now be purged. All right, so that's nice. It grants you have people in your group that know how to purge. That's awesome. This is big for me. The Gromkar Cinderseer will no longer cast Lava Wreath. So when you're in the part that is the train, and you've got all these little boxes around you. Here, let me show you real quick. Let me pull this up, actually. Let's see if we can find it. Show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, so let's pull this over here. So Lava Wreath. What it does is it gets cast and it goes on to somebody, and it silences them for 12 seconds, and it does fire damage, and it pulsates that. So everybody getting touched by it gets crushed. Then they have to move out of everything so that it'll go away. Now, the problem with that, moving out of everything, is that you're in this area here. And so there's boxes here and here and here and here, which line of sight you. So you have to pretty much, we're fighting them up in the corner here. and then you've got to like run around all these boxes. If you're somebody that's here, because you can't stand back here, you have to stand here like the line of sight. So if you get it, you have to run past everybody, just crushing them, right? And as a tank, I'm like tanking these things, and I'm facing like the fire breath away and dodging the fire breath, but then getting that AOE damage. And I don't know, sometimes the DPS don't know they have to move out of it or what, but I'm stuck having to go through the doors or sort of run away, and everybody has to like run away from the person if they don't move through. And so it was just a pain in the butt. It actually was really crappy, and I hated it. So I'm glad that they're getting rid of that. That's going to help a lot. Railmaster is the first boss. Yeah. So where you got the brute, and then you got the little guy, the little goblin guy. Mad dash reduced by 30%. So as a tank, you have to line this guy. He's like this big brute guy, and you have to line him up with the boxes where the goblin guy is, because the goblin guy flies up. This guy, he does his mad dash, I think, knocks it down. And that damage was just, I mean, it was like through all my CDs and everything, it was just crushing. So that's going to be good. Now this I'm really happy with. Skylord Tovra. Thunderous Breath initial damage reduced by 25%. That's pretty big because you can't dodge that. It's the last boss. It casts it, and then you have to pretty much just take the damage, right? You have to just sort of eat it. There's no really way around it. And what was happening was, as a tank, I was fine, but the DPS were like dying left and right from it. Okay, so that's going to be a good one. Iron Docks. Dreadfang's shredding swipe should no longer hit players multiple times. So the dog portion. So there's the dog. There's the guy on it. They separate. Dreadfang shredding does some damage. It's now only doing it one time, which is nice. Oshir is the big like cat guy. So what he does is Feeding Frenzy. He'll jump onto a player and sort of just like maul them right over and over and over again. And I remember thinking like, man, this guy is mauling on him for a long time. So they nerfed him, right? So they're making it to where 5% damage interrupts that cast instead of 8. And then Skolok, the last guy here, is melee damage reduced by 15%. That's pretty decent. And then Koromar will no longer cast Shattering Blade, which will just help in general make those bosses easier. So I'm really excited about the Grimrail Depot. Iron Docks, this stuff sounds good. I think it'd be easier, but I really didn't have a problem with it last week. Grimrail Depot, though, I really like. Okay, so Karazhan, lower, the killer of the expansion so far, or I'm sorry, of the season. What'd they do? Ghostly Philanthropist will no longer cast Throw Coin. Okay, so they just completely removed that ability. So they just completely removed a few abilities from like bosses and mobs. Just completely got rid of them, which I don't remember that ever being that common for these hotfixes, but they did it here. Gang Ruffians Poisonous Shank damage reduced by 30%. That's good. Those are going to help, especially this week on Fortified. Opera Hall. Assistant health reduced by 30%. Okay, Morose. This is the one that a lot of people were having a lot of trouble with. His Garrote duration reduced to 1 minute. It was permanent. So this is a stacking dot that does damage over time, and it just bleed everybody out. So now it's reduced to a minute instead of it being permanent. I'm assuming it still stacks, but I'm assuming that each stack falls off after a minute. We'll have to wait and see how that works out. But down to a minute from permanent, I mean, yeah, it's a big nerf. Dinner Party effect now increases damage and attack speed of nearby dinner guests by 50% instead of 100. That's half. They halved it, right? So instead of everybody getting 100% damage and attack speed and just brutalizing your party, now they do 50. Shade of Medivh on upper, flame wreath damage reduced by 30%. Okay. And that's about it. So the items and rewards fixed an issue causing the Great Vault to display wrong item level for upcoming rewards. I mean, no biggie. Glad they fixed it. Minor thing. The big thing here, though, is the nerfs and stuff to the dungeons. I think they're going to make it easier, especially going back into Tyrannical next week, and then Fortified this week, just removing some of those casts and abilities from some of the mobs altogether. I think it's going to be a lot easier. It's sort of a Some of it I feel like is really like needed, and some of it I feel like it's sort of just like, hey, it's the last season. We're going to make it a little bit easier. So Blizzard is active. They are listening, and they are changing things as they come out. So that's good. So I'm looking forward to getting into this week and doing some Mythic Plus and seeing how all these changes work, and just enjoying the game and having fun. So I hope that, y'all got filled in on this. Leave what you think in the comments down below. Let me know, right? Let me know your thoughts. Join the Discord. It's also in the link. Subscribe to the channel. We do Mythic Plus and gold making. And what else am I supposed to say? Like the video. That helps. So that's it for the hotfixes for the 8th of August 2022 for the second week of season 4. So hope you learned something. Hope you like something. Have a great whatever you're watching, morning, noon, or night. And until next time, I'll catch you all later.